I was in Studio City a few years ago, playing a few songs at a little joint called Jump Cut Cafe. I made a joke about feminists, and afterwards a guy followed me out to my truck. "I'm guessing you're not a big liberal," he said. Good guess. We spent the next 2 hours talking about politics and culture and the general decline of liberal thinking. He looked familiar to me. Turns out he's one of those character actors that we see all the time in movies and TV shows. He's done a ton of commercials too. Very well known by sight, but not so much by name. I'll call him Jim. I asked how he gets away with being a conservative in Hollywood. Jim told me about a group of like-minded actors and other industry people who have found each other over the years. They formed a sort of club. They meet in secret at undisclosed locations. You know, like the French resistance after the Nazi invasion. They keep their politics a secret in their working and social lives because they know they'd be punished for not towing the progressive line. They know that they'd lose work. It's not a theory. It's not paranoia. They know for certain that, if exposed, their names would end up on an unofficial Hollywood Blacklist. You've heard of the Hollywood Blacklist that crippled the careers of many actors, writers, and directors during the 40s and 50s. Hollywood has told the story many, many times, most recently in the 2016 film Trumbo, which starred Bryan Cranston. Hollywood progressives talk about it as if it happened last week. They are still outraged that a person would lose his job for simply holding an unpopular political belief. Can you imagine? Usually, they will refer to the blacklist days as McCarthyism, after Senator Joe McCarthy. I used to hear this so often that I assumed Joe McCarthy was directly involved with the Hollywood Blacklist. But like most things I learned from my lefty pals, this turned out not to be true. They'd talk about McCarthy in the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, HUAC. Now, I'm no genius, but even I know that senators don't sit on committees in the House of Representatives. McCarthy had nothing to do with HUAC. His hunt for communists took place in Washington, D.C., and was focused on elected officials and government employees. Basically, he was looking for spies in the government. Maybe my progressive friends conflate the two things because McCarthy was a Republican. HUAC, on the other hand, was established and chaired mostly by Democrats, principally Representative Martin Dice Jr. But whatever the case, Hollywood remains outraged about the persecution of legends such as Orson Welles, Dalton Trumbo, Charlie Chaplin, Ring Lardner. They were suspected of working to popularize communism by inserting left-wing messages into movies. Wow, can you imagine thinking that left-wingers would use popular culture to send anti-American messages? Frankly, I'm shocked. Hollywood remains shocked at the charge to this day. But a dozen films have been made about the blacklist that portray suspected communists as heroes and those investigating them as fascists. Most liberals today agree with that assessment. It's probably true that even the films about the blacklist have influenced our culture to be more open to socialist thought and suspicious of patriotism. I know for a fact that when I was a Democrat, my own stereotypes about conservatives were largely shaped by movies and popular culture. Kind of proves HUAC's point, doesn't it? Here we are in 2019. It turns out that Soviet communism was at least as bad as Tail Gunner Joe thought it was. It turns out that Hollywood was and is left-wing through and through. Does that mean HUAC was right to run people out of their jobs because they held unpopular political opinions? No, absolutely not. This is America, and you and I are both protected by the Constitution when it comes to speech and assembly, no matter which of us holds an unpopular belief. We have to remember that this so-called Red Scare was at a time when FDR was laying out the original New Deal. The Great Depression had made a lot of Americans very wary of capitalism. We hadn't yet seen communism fail in China, Cuba, Cambodia, etc. Cradle-to-grave government guarantees look like a good idea to a lot of people. The notion that everybody who attended a Communist Party meeting was out to destroy America is an overreach. But then, as now, the hard left wanted to deeply change this country. They loved the America that they saw in their dreams and hated the America they saw with their eyes. Then, as now. At the end of his campaign in 2008, Barack Obama said, "We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America." How does one fundamentally transform something? If you wanted to fundamentally transform your house, you'd have to take it down to the foundations and then change the foundations. A new coat of paint won't do it. A fundamental change is structural. In California, you can tear a house down, but if you leave one wall standing, you can call it a remodel. But you won't convince the guys swinging sledgehammers that they haven't just knocked a house down. They have. That's why they're called a demolition crew. You may have noticed that I call Democrats demos. Well, this is why. But really, they just want to upgrade the place a little. Listen, they aren't out to destroy their America. They're out to destroy your America. You know, to make way for their America. You cannot have an America based on personal liberty and an America where you are told what car you may drive, what toilet you may own, what medical insurance you will carry, and what words you will be allowed to speak. If you want the latter bad enough, you will gladly destroy the former. But what I find strange is that Hollywood leftists, while still whining about the blacklist, actively pursue the ruination of Republicans anywhere they find them. The same people who tell us how monstrous McCarthy and HUAC were for policing ideas do exactly that every chance they get. The most ironic thing is that for the last 2 years they have been screaming about the possibility that Donald Trump was in cahoots with Russia to influence our elections through the use of social media. In other words, to turn popular culture against American values. The left, largely through their many Hollywood mouthpieces, has basically been accusing Trump of the exact same thing HUAC was accusing Hollywood of 70 years ago, colluding with Moscow to destroy America. Can anybody say projection? The pitiless tracking down and punishing of thought is entirely the domain of leftists in today's world, just as the Soviet Union punished dissent, just as Mao and Castro and Pol Pot did. The people who were once blacklisted have not eliminated blacklisting. They have no intention of doing that. They have simply grabbed the clipboard and the Sharpie for themselves and switched the target. Now you can find yourself on a blacklist if you don't want to destroy your country. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and then click the little bell to get notifications.
So, Tim, first of all, where are you, and describe the scene?
This is, like you said, we've been all over the world seeing a crisis where children are being used and abused in the worst ways. It's happening right here in our country. And it's, you know, who the defense is. It's the churches. It's the local communities who are running to help because our policies don't support a child rescue right now. In fact, our policies are incentivizing traffickers to utilize the system. So we are in between El Paso and Las Cruces, New Mexico. There's 13 churches that we are here to train. They need training. They called us and said, please come help us. We know these children are being trafficked. We think a lot of these kids that are being dumped daily at our churches, 1,000 a day to one church network in New Mexico. And they said, look, we see these kids. We don't think these kids belong to their parents, the people claiming to be their parents, but we don't know what to do. We don't know how to train them, what to tell them. In essence, what's happening is this, and I went down, I talked to a lot of these people who are being helped by these churches. What's happening is there's literally, and I have intel from Guatemala, from my guys on the ground, there's radio ads, okay, for smugglers advertising. We can get you into the United States. Just sign up here, get on the bus. And then they give them two things, Glenn. If they don't have a child, they give them a child that they've kidnapped from some place. They're recycling these kids. Once they get them through, they'll bring them back south, and they pair children up with the people who pay money to the smugglers. And then they give them a name, if they don't have a name, of a sponsor, and say, when you get there, show the name to the customs official, and with a name in hand, the person claiming to be the sponsor, and a child in hand, they get released immediately. And then the only people there to take care of them and to do any kind of vetting or helping them with supplies are these churches. And these are the greatest people on the planet. They're not political. They're frustrated that the government's not supporting the efforts. But they've run because they see children in need. And that's why we're here. We're here to train them, to teach them what to look for. And I mean, Glenn, I saw this 5-year-old kid yesterday, and I talked to him. I asked him what his name was. I asked him who his dad was. He pointed me to a man. I walked over to the man. Hey, what's your kid's name? Gave me a different name. And so we're making efforts right now to make sure this kid doesn't end up with the quote unquote sponsor who's going to be a trafficker. Okay, our system is facilitating trafficking events. It is absolutely insane. And when you consider the fact,
I want to ask you if you can talk about the two areas of the country that they are going to, that they seem to be concentrating in two areas. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's two cities that a lot of them are going to, Atlanta and North Dakota. And this is very concerning because Atlanta is one of the highest trafficking cities in the United States, if not the highest. And then in North Dakota, they're building the pipeline, and even the church folks actually pointed this out to me. They're like, and they actually rescued one of the little girls. They did some follow-up work on their own, and realized that these kids were being sent to North Dakota because they're there to sexually service the workers on the pipeline. So, but this is just a small group of Christian volunteers who are trying to play intel analyst and rescue children on their own because the kids are just dumped on them. And
the Homeland Security or the Border Patrol, they can't do anything, can they? Because of the way the Democrats have set the laws up.
Exactly right. They want to do something, but the policies in place say when that kid comes in, if they have a kid in their hands, you have to let them go right away, 20 days max. But they don't even have time to wait the 20 days because the next 1,000 are coming in the next hour. So they can't do anything. They have to. Our laws are forcing them to just drop them off. And luckily the churches have come and said, well, where are you going to drop them off? We'll make sure we're there, and we'll take them, and we'll do the job that Congress won't let you do. We'll try to do it ourselves. We'll try to vet these kids. We'll try to feed these kids. We'll try to give them food and water.
How are these with 1,000 a day new in 12 days? That's 12,000 people. That's a small city. How are these cities handling this here in the United States? I read a story today where they're just using taxpayer dollars. They're going into their city funds and they're cutting other things because they have to provide water. They have to police it. They have to do something, and they don't have any money to do it.
That's right. They are busting at the seams. The state of New Mexico was generous enough to provide a mobile medical unit. So all the kids that we get we're taking them to make sure they're okay, to check them for diseases, checking them for sexually transmitted diseases. I mean, Glenn, I met a woman yesterday who she couldn't pay the passage. She was trying to get out of Guatemala because her daughter was being hounded by traffickers, which I know is the case. I know these are true stories. And so she said, I got to get out, but I couldn't pay the fare. So you know what she had to do? She had to be raped 6 times along the path from Guatemala to the border. That was her pay to the traffickers, to the smugglers. And then they come here, and now we're servicing them. We're checking for STDs. We're getting them medicines. I mean, and this is the community. This is the churches mostly, and they're busting at the seams, and they need help. They need help. They need financial help to provide medicine for these children, for these abused women. They need food, and they need more manpower to do the vetting, to do the job that Congress isn't doing. Basically, to vet these kids and make sure that they don't get sent down the path to some sex trafficker in Atlanta or North Dakota or anywhere else in the United States.
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic.
Only if you show emotion about stupid shit.
I once cried because I had to wash a knife to butter my toast. I cried because I couldn't find the exit in the shopping center. I couldn't get my eyebrows to look the same. When I couldn't pull off my jeans. When I dropped an entire pizza face down onto the dirty ground. Oh, I would cry too.
If we want to play against men, we're nuts.
Yeah, because men are better at sports.
And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional.
True. I've never heard of any woman ever being given an opportunity to participate in any sport. Ever. Just doesn't happen. Sorry, ladies.
When we stand for something, we're unhinged.
Only when you stand for stupid shit.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
Cultural appropriation is about a privileged group misrepresenting and disrespecting marginalized cultures.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am. I need your corporate number now, because I'm going to call them and talk about how it's misgendered several times in the store.
When we're too good, there's something wrong with us.
Sometimes there is.
2 transgender high school runners taking the top spots at the state girls championship.
I had like these pink and purple furry boots that I wear.
And if we get angry, we're hysterical.
Only when you get angry about stupid shit.
Leave Benny alone!
Okay, I know that was a guy. I'm sorry, but you get the idea.
A woman running a marathon was crazy.
In 1967.
A woman boxing was crazy.
Anyone boxing is a little bit crazy.
A woman dunking? Crazy.
No, just unusual.
Coaching an NBA team? Crazy.
No, but she is white, so the NBA is clearly racist.
A woman competing in a hit job.
Nobody cares.
Changing her sport.
That's not even a thing.
Landing a double cork 1080.
That is just awesome.
Or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more.
Nope, none of that's crazy. But being humble about it apparently is.
So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
I'm sorry, Serena Williams. You're still crazy.
And took it out of the frame.
I didn't get coaching. I didn't get coaching. You need to make an announcement that I didn't get coaching.
Well, I mean, I'm honest. I was coaching.
This is not fair. There's a lot of men out here that have said a lot of things, and because they're men, that doesn't happen to them.
Nike supports women in sports. We're just like Gillette. Nike, Gillette, Gillette, Nike, Gillette.
Need K, what is that? Some sort of engine talk or something?
CNN covered the Covington kids relentlessly and their bigoted hate towards Native Americans, which turned out to be completely false. However, their quiet as church mice on the videotape that Memory, which is not even American news source, found coming out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, usually, we've seen this before, so it shouldn't shock us because the children are indoctrinated like this in the Middle East a lot of times. But when it's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it kind of takes a different little feel. There's a little different perspective on it. I skipped, because this is in Arabic, I skipped the songs where they have this performance. They perform certain routines while the music is playing, and they're talking about violence and killing Jews and all of that. And then afterwards, some of the kids get together on stage and recite these poems. And now it's in Arabic again, so we're going to have to read the translation. But
our martyrs sacrificed their lives without hesitation. They attained paradise. The scent of musk emanates from their bodies. They compete with one another to reach paradise. Will Jerusalem be their capital city, or will the hotbed for cowards? We will defend our land of divine guidance with our bodies, and we will sacrifice our souls without hesitation. We will chop off their heads. We will liberate the sorrowful and exalted mosque. We will lead the army of Allah fulfilling his process, and we will subject them to eternal torture.
Wow. I mean, okay, so the excuse that they used at the
slip through the cracks.
Yeah, Muslim American Society it just wasn't vetted
properly,
and that doesn't represent our point of view at all.
Can I ask you something? Can I ask you?
Really? So that's the first time those kids just came up with that on their own?
I have slipped into genocide plays so many times I can't even count them.
No. Now listen. Yeah. They said it wasn't vetted properly.
Right.
So that means they were probably. You should see what they cut.
Yeah.
You should see what was vetted.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It does make you wonder.
I mean, there's no way. That's not like one phrase that you're like, oh, okay, but it kind of. No. There's no double meaning in this.
No, none at all.
None at all.
It's not like you took that out of context.
Right.
So this goes on for, I don't know, 5 minutes or something between the song and this.
For them to say what just wasn't vetted is ridiculous.
Yeah, and that it doesn't really represent their point of view. Well, okay,
then how come
kids just did that on their own?
Then how come Memory found out about it?
Yeah.
How come it wasn't the Muslims in that community that came out of there and saying, hey, we have some bad Muslims that are running our mosque, and they didn't vet this? How come there wasn't a big outrage at the mosque?
This should chill people to the bone because clearly that's what the kids are being taught.
Yeah, because the kids also aren't upset about it.
Right.
Like you think if the kids were
the
saying,
most
I'm
normal thing in the world.
People, yeah.
They'll chop their heads off. What?
So you take that is got to be standard in the way they're being taught at some level. If I went to my kids right now and tried to, had them read something that was about brutal murders, they would certainly question it, right? I mean, like,
Yes.
they're young.
My kids would come home from church if that's what they were doing in, primary, and they got out, and they would definitely come home going, I said, what did you do at church today? We were doing a poem about beheading people and making people burn forever
and killing Jews
and killing Jews
in Jerusalem. Well, wait.
I mean,
right. But I mean, the kids themselves would have caught that. They wouldn't have needed to come to tell you about it. The kids themselves would have caught it. And how old are those kids? I mean,
probably 10 or 12, right?
Yeah, I mean, old enough, I think to recognize, I don't know if I should be doing this.
Play it again. I just want to see their faces as they're doing it. Yeah, these kids
totally
are
matter of fact.
Yeah. I will also
10,
say
12, 13.
Also say this, they really get through these sentences quickly. To the fact that Glenn, when translating, couldn't even keep up with the subtitles.
Yeah.
Usually it's the other way around with foreign languages where there's like 26 sentences and then they say the. You're like, oh.
We will sacrifice our souls without hesitation. We will chop off their heads. And we will liberate the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We will lead the army of Allah, fulfilling his promise.
Really fast reading, though.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
I'll say that. You know what? We might not agree with the whole beheading talk, but the reading
skills are pretty good.
Really doing, they're doing well.
Really
they're
good.
doing very well there.
Paul Joseph Watson, Laura Loomer, and Milo Yiannopoulos were just unpersoned by Facebook yesterday in the latest purge of prominent conservative voices, and they were labeled dangerous people and then lumped in with Louis Farrakhan, who was also banned. Of course, Facebook did not ban the Smash Racism DC page, the Antifa DC page, which organized that harassment campaign against Tucker Carlson by literally creating an event for it, posting his home address surrounding his home, and then telling him that, quote, he's not safe, and they know where he sleeps.
Your policies communicate, and we want you to know we know where you sleep at night.
Mailbox, synagogue.
We know where you sleep at night.
We know where you sleep at night.
Nope, that didn't violate Facebook's terms of service, but Paul, Laura, and Milo criticizing Islam does. What else is interesting is that the reports were already published and circulating from CNN, of course, and others, saying that they were banned before they were actually banned. It looks like CNN had their article written and ready to publish for the moment the ban took place, and then once they were given the heads up from their Facebook contact, yep, we're going to ban them right now, they published the article, but it took Facebook a few minutes to finally get around to actually deleting the accounts. The Atlantic is reporting that if anybody posts any InfoWars articles or videos on their Facebook page, those posts will be removed and repeat offenders will also be banned. TechCrunch is reporting that Facebook may start engaging in pre-crime detection, like the Tom Cruise movie Minority Report, and it may just start deleting people's pages before they actually violate the policies. In her book, Hate, Why We Should Resist It with Free Speech Not Censorship, by Nadine Strassman, the former president of the ACLU, she quotes George Washington University professor Jeffrey Rosen, who says that social media platforms, although not formally bound by the First Amendment, since they are technically private corporations, right, they have a democratic obligation to embrace something close to the constitutional standard. Like universities and media outlets, online speech platforms should not be safe spaces. They should be democratic spaces, with the ultimate victors in the clash of ideas determined by reason and deliberation. She also points out that prior to the Civil War, many southern states made it illegal for people to actually denounce slavery because they didn't want abolitionist ideas to spread. Saying, quote, the leading pro-slavery advocate, Senator John C. Calhoun, argued that abolitionists who criticized slavery libeled the South and inflicted emotional injury. During the 1830s, many southern states enacted laws suppressing abolitionist speech, which was feared to spur violence, in particular slave rebellions, and indeed to threaten the nation's very survival. So at one time, it was actually illegal in certain states to say that you were against slavery. Kind of like today, how it's a violation of big tech's terms of service to say that there are only two genders. But Congressman Jamie Raskin and other Democrats say that it's just a conspiracy theory that conservatives are being censored on social media.
So today, we resume consideration of the entirely imaginary narrative that social media companies are biased against conservatives. Companies, I should add, whose platforms were used to spread vicious Russian propaganda that helped to elect Donald Trump president.
Oh, I'm just imagining that Paul Joseph Watson's Facebook page has been deleted. Did you want to say something stupid, Jabba the Hutt Nadler?
But before we delve into these questions, I must first dispense with a completely illegitimate issue, which is the fantasy dreamed up by some conservatives that Google and other online platforms have an anti-conservative bias. As I have said repeatedly, no credible evidence supports this right-wing conspiracy theory.
It's actually a conspiracy fact, sir. And speaking of conspiracies, here's a clip from G. Edward Griffin from 50 years ago. He's the author of the fantastic book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, exposing the Federal Reserve banking cartel, warning about just this kind of thing.
In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable build-ups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind."
That was a clip produced by the John Birch Society for a presentation back in 1969. 50 years ago. Let's not forget that Project Veritas recently obtained some leaked documents from inside of Facebook that showed that they had labeled Lauren Chen, formerly known as Roaming Millennial, as producing videos that were destructive. How dare a beautiful woman be conservative and post videos on Facebook? You're a hateful Nazi. At this rate, it won't be much longer until the big tech companies start banning people for saying that abortion is murder because they'll consider it to be hateful against the people who murder their babies. I'm getting really sick of this censorship, so I want every single one of you to create a new contact in your phone and save the number to the United States Capitol switchboard in there and call them as soon as this video's done and call them every time somebody new gets censored. All you need to do is call this number and they will forward your call to your senator or your member in the House of Representatives and you tell them what's going on. From now on, instead of just posting about it on social media or making YouTube videos about it, every time somebody new gets censored, we're gonna start calling Congress. And here's the number to the White House, guys. I want every single one of you to save it in your phones, and it's time to start making our voices heard loud and clear. Thanks for watching, guys, because as you know, any day I could be next. So I appreciate your support. If you guys enjoy watching my videos, sponsor the channel through Patreon or PayPal by clicking the links in the description below, or head on over to my online store at markdice.com and get one of my awesome shirts, like the Free Speech Zone shirt, the new I Love Global Warming shirt, or the classic presidential collection, all available in a t-shirt, long sleeve, and a hoodie, of course, in multiple different colors as well. Appreciate your support, guys, because it's getting more Orwellian in this country every day.
I have a question. I'm pro-vaccination. However, as a preschool teacher, I run into a lot of parents who aren't. So my question is, do you believe that people should be compelled by law to vaccinate themselves or their children?
So this is one of my more controversial positions. My answer is yes. The reason that my answer is yes is because the vaccination science is extraordinarily clear. Here is where I say my wife is a doctor. It is also true that all of the supposed links between, for example, vaccinations and autism are complete sheer nonsense. The person who originally put out those claims was forced to retract all of those claims. It just happens that autism happens to manifest about the same age that children are very often getting vaccinations, but correlation does not equal causation. The fact that we now see measles, which is a highly dangerous and highly contagious disease, being spread around schools is extraordinarily dangerous. There are certain, and when people argue about whether vaccinations should be compelled. After all, does it hurt anybody else? This is a question of externality. So as a conservative, I don't believe people should be compelled to do anything unless it causes externality to others. However, failing to vaccinate your kid does have externalities because herd immunity is necessary in order to protect people who can't actually protect themselves, kids who have cancer and can't get vaccinations, pregnant women who can't have vaccinations. So this is a really serious issue. With that said, should we always be looking to develop better forms of vaccines that, for example, have less of a rate of developing into Guillain-Barré syndrome, which can sometimes occur thanks to particular vaccine lines? Of course, we should always do better. But the rates of this are exorbitantly low, I mean extraordinarily low. And there's a reason that so many diseases that plagued humanity for legitimately tens of thousands of years legitimately disappeared from planet Earth as of about 50 or 60 years ago, once people realized what germ theory was and that vaccinations were actually effective. So I know there are a lot of folks who are upset with me actually about my vaccination position on this, but I do have a very strong vaccination position. And again, if it causes an externality not to vaccinate your kids, then it's a problem for you not to vaccinate your kids.
Beautiful women prefer conservatives.
Mr. Reagan.
So the last two girlfriends I had, my ex is a model from Finland. My current girlfriend, Valeria, is from Russia. Lovely, charming.
Oh. How are you gonna get away?
They both told me the same thing. Well, I'll tell you exactly what my current girlfriend said. She said, I didn't think I would ever date an American guy because American guys are p***s. That was her... that was her words, not mine. And it occurred to me, well, you just haven't met a Republican. So why is it? Why is it that women tend to prefer Republicans, or at least beautiful women? Women naturally find masculinity attractive. I mean, that's just common sense, right? But leftist men embrace femininity, right? There was this big push in the 90s, like, are you in touch with your feminine side, right? Now when I look at, like, guys who are teenagers up into, like, their 30s, I think, wow, you really embraced your feminine side. Like, a lot of guys on YouTube, there's just the way they speak, the way they move, the way they carry themselves.
What toilet do you use?
There is a sense that if they were out with a girl and some guy tried to rape the girl, that they wouldn't kill the guy, they would run away. Right? This is a very sort of baseline, masculine trait. The war on masculinity has been so ferocious that men have actually given in to the idea of rejecting their own masculinity. Not only should they embrace their masculinity, they need to develop it, right? Go play sports, go do martial arts, take boxing lessons, at least get in a couple of fights as a kid. Everybody should be in one fight in their life. Even if you don't have the capacity to beat up every other guy, which, I mean, none of us do. I mean, there's always going to be a stronger, tougher guy out there. You got to at least be willing to stand up and fight. And that's something that we don't teach kids anymore, I don't think. I think conservatives, the right wing in America, has a monopoly on masculinity now. And because of that, we have a monopoly on beautiful women. There are other things that make men attractive, in like money, obviously. So let's say you're a guy who's not that attractive to women. You find it difficult to speak to women. You find it difficult to get really beautiful women, the girls that you want. How do you go about changing your circumstances so that you can get these girls? Here are my ways of attracting and keeping stunningly beautiful women. So we've already gone over the first thing, be formidable. Now, being formidable doesn't just mean being willing to fight for your girl. Being physically formidable is obviously part of that. But the other things also apply. Being successful, having a bit of money. But be well-spoken. Be somebody who, in a debate, in a conversation, is going to be confident, is going to know their stuff. Educate yourself. Obviously, if you're watching this channel, you're probably a more formidable person than somebody on the left in terms of politics. You become more formidable with age, certainly, but also simply confidence. You've got to be a confident person. Now, how do you become a confident person? Easy. Accept your flaws. Embrace your flaws. Here's why. Why do people respect stand-up comedians? One, they've got a great skill, okay? They're great at stand-up comedy. We can see they have value. But secondly, a lot of comics are self-deprecating. They'll make fun of themselves. They'll point out all their flaws before you can, and their jokes about themselves are funnier than anything you're going to think up, right? There's something about being self-aware that people really respect. And I think that comes from the idea that if you're self-aware, then you have the capacity to improve those things in which you fall short and to exploit the things in which you thrive, right? So if you're good at stuff, you're going to be able to see what those things are and you're going to use them to benefit your life and to be a more formidable person. And if you can recognize the things you're bad at, you can manage those things, right? So you can either disregard them if you don't think they're important, or you can improve them if you think they are important. So being self-aware is incredibly important. Embrace your flaws. Don't deny them. Denying your flaws is the worst thing that you can do. If somebody says you're bad at something and you actually can see that you're bad at it, but you refuse to admit that, you say, no, I'm not bad at that, then you look petty. Then you don't look self-aware. If somebody says you're bad at something and you say, yeah, I'm terrible at that, then it shows that you have confidence. It shows that you have enough confidence in the other things in your life in which you actually have value that you really don't care that much that, yeah, there are some things that you're bad at. So embrace your flaws, embrace your failures, embrace your shortcomings. All right, the second thing I have on my list is meet women. All right, everybody's stuck on these apps now, right? Tinder and stuff. The best women are not going to be on apps because they're just going to get inundated with messages from horrible guys that they don't want to meet anyway. The girls that you really, really want to date, they're going to get enough attention from guys in real life. They don't need to go on those apps. So forget the apps, all right? That's not going to help you. But if you want a real girl, if you want a fantastic woman, go meet girls in real life. How do you do that? Take classes, go to events, find things in real life in which people gather and congregate. Then just look for the most beautiful women in the room and go up to them. If they're married, you're in trouble. But if they have a boyfriend, that's good. Why is it good to if a girl has got a boyfriend? That sounds crazy, right? All the best girls are taken. All right, let's be honest. All the best girls are taken. If you're a stunningly beautiful girl with a great personality and you're highly intelligent, you have all the values that people want in a person, somebody's going to be dating you. Unless the girl has such high standards that she will not date anyone except for the absolute best perfect match for her, she's probably going to be dating somebody, right? And the person she's dating is probably not the person she wants to be with. So go after girls with boyfriends, right? Enough of this going after only single girls, to be like a noble guy or something like that. Forget that, all right? The single girls, they're the girls that nobody wants to be with. Or they're a spectacular girl in transition and she's going to be single for what, like a week? Like, what are your chances of getting to meet her in that week? I mean, it's incredibly slim. Much better chance meeting a girl who's unhappy in a relationship. Go after girls with boyfriends. Now, going after the most beautiful women in the world is incredibly intimidating for most guys. And there's not a quick fix for the intimidation one feels in going up and just speaking with a stunningly beautiful woman. Some guys can do it, some guys can't. I tend to find that nerds and douchebags have the easiest time because douchebags consider women to be disposable, and nerds recognize that women aren't going to probably like them anyway, so they can just kind of be themselves and be natural, and they don't have a shot, so what does it matter? And occasionally that nerd gets lucky because the girl doesn't care about looks, or she's in a period where she needs a guy like that and she just goes for it. So nerds, believe it or not, have better luck than the best guys in the world. Now, here's something that's really important to note. If you're an average guy, if you're sort of a normal guy with normal intelligence, normal looks, you dress well, sometimes you're kind of funny, you're the guy that every girl wants, all right? Most girls just want a normal guy. That's all they want, all right? They don't want a weirdo. They don't want some guy that's seeking attention all the time. They want a normal, masculine, average dude. So you're the guy. You're the guy that they want, all right? I tend to find that most guys who have some value, they're sort of an average guy who thinks, you know what? It's possible that that girl will like me. If you think it's possible that a girl that you're very excited about will like you, that becomes much more intimidating than if you're a guy that you think, no girl wants me. Or if you think girls are disposable, you don't care what they think, all right, then you're not scared to go up to the girl. But if you're a guy with some value who thinks, that wonderful girl could love me, you've got a lot to lose, right? That's a dangerous proposition. getting rejected. So the fear of rejection is far greater in the normal guy than it is in a guy who embodies one of the extremes of being super douchey or super like losery. But the irony is, you're the guy that they want. And you would not believe the number of insanely, I wouldn't just say beautiful, I would say desirable women. Because desirable encompasses a lot of things, not just looks, you know. The most desirable women often complain to me that they very rarely get hit on. Or if they do get hit on, it's from guys they really don't want, like super old dudes, or like super awkward dudes, or like super douchey dudes. But a lot of times, the most desirable women very rarely get approached because people are just intimidated by them, you know? So there's a couple of like tricks to speaking to intimidatingly desirable women. Trick number 1, pretend that they're ugly. It's a very odd thing to say, but it's effective. It works. In the moment when you see a woman that's so desirable that it's very difficult for you to speak to them, if you just for one moment imagine speaking to a girl that's not desirable, that you have no interest in, and you think, how would I act around her? You're comfortable, you're funny, you're charming, you're all the things that girl wants to talk to, but nobody ever talks to her this way, right? Nobody treats her like a normal human. They treat her like a celebrity or something. So if you are able to speak to that super desirable girl in the same way that you would talk to a girl you have no interest in whatsoever, she's going to fall in love with you within 2 minutes, right? Because that shows a level of confidence she very rarely sees. So the second strategy is a suggestion from my writing partner and my best friend, Kurt, out in Hawaii. His suggestion is find a flaw. He says whenever he approaches a woman that he is absolutely enamored by, and he finds it difficult to approach them because they're so perfect, he thinks, I'm not worthy of the affection of this woman. He'll look at their face, he'll look at their shoes, he'll look at whatever he can to find some little flaw. One girl, he said that he saw that she plucked her eyebrows or she shaved her eyebrows or something. And he said, right, she's human. She doesn't have perfect eyebrows. She has to reshape them. Okay, it's a silly little thing, right? But it humanizes the girl. It makes her no longer a celebrity, no longer a movie star. Now she's a real person that you can talk to. Both of these techniques have the same goal in mind, which is just to humanize the person so that you can speak to them comfortably. But you need to be able to speak naturally and comfortably to a girl that you want to attract. You have to be able to. Okay, my fourth suggestion to guys who are looking to attract super desirable women is aim higher than you think you can get. So a lot of guys want a girl that they look at the range of women in which they think they can get, and they want the sort of top end of that range, maybe just a little bit higher. Now, go one step higher than that. A girl who sees you as a little bit less desirable than she is will be kind of bothered by you, right? She'll feel like, okay, I usually date guys that are a little bit better than this. He thinks he's at my level. Like, come on, please. But if you go for a girl that's like a couple notches better than that, oftentimes those girls are somewhat impressed. Like, wow, this guy must have something going for him if he's going for me, because I get hit on by male models and stuff like that. And now this guy who's like, sort of just a typical guy is going after me. So he must have something special about him. And you probably do. I mean, the reality is you're probably the guy that she wants anyway. She just doesn't know it yet. So don't just go for girls that are at the top end of what you think you can get. Go one notch above that, maybe 2 notches above that. Aim high, man. Aim high. Number 5 on my list is, I believe, the most important tip that I have. And that is better yourself. Look, the reality is that we all want a girl who's a little bit better than we think we can get, right? But a girl who sees her own value and sees your value is going to recognize that there is a discrepancy there. She's going to see that. And we probably see that she probably sees it. And that reduces our confidence. So how do we fix this problem? Better yourself. If you see a girl that puts a great deal of care into her nails, she's well-spoken, she's well-educated, she obviously puts some effort into being a desirable human being, right? You too should put some effort into being a desirable human being, okay? Easiest thing you can do, dress better, right? Simple solution. Like, dress well. That doesn't necessarily mean, suit and tie every day. It could just mean, like, attractive climbing gear. However you like to look, just Be presentable, right? Wear clean, nice clothes. You should put a little bit of effort into that. There's no reason not to. You know, women have eyes as well. You know, hitting the gym can be difficult. Just eating chicken and broccoli for a month can be difficult. But these things help, right? These things are valuable things. I mean, and they have benefits aside from getting girls. You know, you want to be a fit dude. Being fit, being well-dressed are easy solutions. Relatively easy. But there are other tricks. Women love creative guys. Embrace your creativity. Pick up a hobby. Be an artist of some kind. If you have no creativity, become a photographer. Photographers are not real artists. Like, what do you need to be a good photographer? You need good equipment, you need to know how to take pictures, and that's it. I mean, that's really it. So there's a ton of YouTube videos on how to be a good photographer. I would recommend getting a camera in the Sony line because they have incredible dynamic range. You don't need to know what that means right now, just know it's good. And get a good lens. Just a good 35mm prime lens. Now, what you want in a good prime lens is a fast lens. That means a low f-stop, like 1.2 to 1.8. You can look all that stuff up so you know what it means, but you'll be able to take stunningly beautiful pictures. Women find that very attractive if you have a good Instagram. And if you can take pictures of them, they'll really love you. Another tip I have is travel, right? Women love men who have traveled overseas. Go to Europe, go to Asia, go to Africa, go to cool places and do cool stuff. And while you're at it, you can take your new camera, take awesome photos, and have a kick-ass Instagram. All right, number 6 is... Okay, so number 6 is not really a suggestion, but rather an observation. A truth about the world that you need to know in order to effectively choose the right targets to date. For a relationship to work, a woman's level of desirability, objective desirability, must match a man's level of confidence. Okay, oftentimes we think if the woman's desirable, the man to be with her must be desirable too. Like if she's like a supermodel, the guy should be like a male model. But you never see that in real life. I mean, rarely. Most of the time you see super hot girls with these like rich old guys. And you think, well, those girls are just going after his money. Maybe. But I've been in LA for a long time. I've seen a lot of weird couples, and I can tell you this. It's not just that the guy's rich. A lot of times it's because the guy has an insane amount of confidence. And then sometimes I'll see like really good looking cool guys, male models for instance, with like these sort of average looking girls. And it took me a long time to figure this out, but eventually I realized it's the level of the guy's confidence matches the girl's desirability, objective desirability. And this is kind of a hard one to accept because you have to take a really cold, hard look at yourself. You have to be very realistic. You have to say, what is my confidence level? And all the things I've talked about so far can help you to be confident. Talking to girls will help you to become confident. The more girls that you date, the more confident you're going to become about girls. The better dressed you are, the more interesting you are, the more desirable you are to women, that's going to make you more confident. The best 2 ways I think that can build your confidence is 1, always try to make yourself better, right? Always try to improve yourself because every day you look in the mirror and think, am I better than I was yesterday? Yes. But the absolute best way to build your confidence is to be a good person. If you're a good person, if you know that every day you're trying to do the right thing, you look yourself in the mirror and you say, I don't care what other people think of me. I'm a good person. I'm trying to do the right thing, right? So if you genuinely know you're trying to do the right thing all the time in every circumstance of your life, you will be an incredibly confident person. So be good. So this last one, this last point that I'm going to make isn't a suggestion. It isn't a fact like the last thing. It is an observation about the world. It's something of a criticism. Most men only date women who actively pursue them. This is horrible, okay? Most guys, they don't even go out and try to talk to girls. They just meet girls, and whatever girl says, you know, I want to date you, they're like, okay, and they go along with that. That's all. You know, you are really, if you're one of these guys, and one of my good friends is like this, and he is admittedly like this, and I said to him, you are utterly restricting the range of girls that you have access to by just going for the ones who actively approach you or actively pursue you. This is backwards, okay, guys? You are utterly limiting your pool of possible girls that you're dating. Sometimes this is due to cowardice. Other times this is due to laziness. I think a lot of times it's due to indifference. Like a lot of guys, their top priority isn't getting a great girl, or they might think, you know what, I want to wait until I have more money, or or I have a better situation going, or I can focus on that before I start to get a wife and a family. Don't worry about that. Okay? Always actively look for and attempt to date the best girls that you can find. Any room that you walk into for the rest of your life, you got to look through that room and find the girl that you want to date and go talk to her. Make a habit of that. Always sit next to the most beautiful woman. All right? Always sit next to the girl that you want to date. Because if you're not in a speaking proximity, you can't speak to the girl. So whenever you walk into any room and you see a girl that you want to date, go over and stand next to her. Just go be near her. You're not going to talk to a girl if you're not near her. So I know this video wasn't super on topic in terms of politics, but it's a video I've wanted to make for some time. It's a video that a lot of girls have urged me to make, especially my ex-girlfriend Nina. She really wanted me to make a video like this. So hopefully it helps some of you guys out. If you don't have problems with girls, I'm sorry that you didn't have to watch it. But if you are a guy who feels like he's a great guy, he should be able to find some fantastic women. Hopefully some of these tips helped. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, whatever, don't hit the dislike button. I mean, yeah, I'll cry. I'm sensitive. If you want to see more videos like this, consider contributing to my Patreon. The link is in the description. I know most of you probably don't have the money to do that, but if you do, please contribute. I want to grow this channel. I want to make more videos. I want to make better quality videos. I do tend to get a bit frustrated because my time is limited. I can't make as many videos as I want and make them as high quality as I want and make all the different kinds of videos that I want to make. But do try to help me get there. If you don't have any money, fine, just subscribe and let's try to build this channel. And if you hate me, I'm sorry. You don't have to take any of this advice. Just continue to date uggos. It's cool. Leave the hot girls for conservatives. And I just want to say I love my fans. Like, you guys are the best fans ever. The comment section is full of just like super smart, super cool people. And I always thought that if I had a successful YouTube channel, it would just be filled with like, ignorant hate. But it isn't. It's filled with like really smart, interesting, cool people. Especially like the guys that comment a lot on my channel. You guys are really smart people, and a couple of girls, but I think I have like 97% guys following me or something like that. But you guys are all like super cool guys. But yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised having started this channel. So thank you for my followers. Thank you for my subscribers. Hopefully we'll blow this channel up. People are always surprised at how few subscribers I have, but hopefully soon that will change. And thanks for watching. Have a good night.
Must be a big push this time, Case.
The Admiral told me not to tell.
The Admiral should have told me not to worry.
I thought we'd settled all that about you and me.
It won't stay settled, Case. Not until you tell me you stopped caring.